Hi guys, so in today's video I want to do a mini tour of our tow car. However, I need to apologise in advance because I actually filmed this video a few months ago when we were on holiday, and when we filmed it was quite a nice sunny day. However, we have actually lost half of the footage. I've come to edit it, realised half the footage is missing, so I've had to go out and refilm some of it. So apologies that the actual video itself won't seem consistent because there are some sunny clips and some quite miserable, wet-looking clips like it is today. The car makes up half of your outfit, car, caravan, and in my opinion, the car is equally as important as the caravan. We only have one car ourselves, don't we? So for us, it needs to be quite practical for other aspects of our life. We don't have a car exclusively for towing. So obviously, the car gets you and your caravan to site. You use it when you're on site for days out, trips and whatnot. So after, how long has it been? Just over a year and 18,000 miles of ownership. I thought I would give you a little mini review and tour of our Vauxhall Insignia. So let's start with the styling. I know looks subjective, but I actually think this car looks okay. Mine's in Elite Nav trim, which gives you 19-inch alloy wheels and tinted rear windows, which I actually think makes the car look a little bit more handsome than other Insignia trim levels of this generation. In all honesty, though, it blends in, doesn't really stand out. Rivals of this car are the Ford Mondeo, Volkswagen Passat, Mazda 6 and Skoda Octavia, all of which are equally forgettable in terms of their styling. So, yeah, I think it's fine. Moving on to practicality, uh, I have the hatchback version. They also do an estate version of this car, but in a hatchback form, you get a 530 litre boot capacity, which extends to 1,470 litres when the rear seats are folded down. Um, I didn't really think that I needed a car this size, but somehow we managed to fill it. Typically, when we travel, we have the Aquaroll, Wastemaster, two camping chairs, toolbox, foot pump, and still manage to have one rear seat in place. And there is also a spare wheel under the boot floor. Moving round to the rear seats are nice and spacious. You've got good head height, plenty of knee room, and it's easy to fit a child seat using the Isofix mounting points. You've also got an armrest with a cup holder, so pretty standard, but perfectly adequate. So moving into the front, we've got a electrically adjusted multifunction driver's seat. Multifunction, would you call it? Basically with memory function, which is really nice. Just come out of the cold and wet. Sorry for the continuity error just there. It was lovely and sunny when we previously filmed this, but we lost the beginning bit of footage. Yeah, so we've got a really comfortable like driving area up front. There's loads of space. In terms of storage, you've got bits and pieces under here. Under centre armrest, that's where the USB is. Also, you've got a 12-volt power socket here, which I use to power my dash cam, so it's hidden out of the way. There is also one hidden down there with a little area. Don't know what anyone's doing with this little area, but I suppose it's better to have it than to not have it. Let me just turn the ignition on one sec. Here we've got all the HVAC system, which is fine. I mean, some people might complain about this because this is like a touch sensitive like pad. You can sync them. People that say about having climate control systems integrated into screens like this, or if you had like a tablet display like on quite a lot of modern cars, they don't like that, but I tend to leave my heating set to 21, so it's sort of non-issue for me. But I think there's plenty of storage space up here. Obviously you've got a standard glove box, mirror, oh hello, mirror up there, microphones for the phone because it's got Bluetooth. Basically your standard sort of like relatively modern day car specification, I suppose. Up front we've got here, I would never use Vauxhall's own sat nav because I think it's rubbish. But if you do, you can have the navigation instructions pointing up here on this central display. I tend to plug my phone in and use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. I find the maps rubbish. As I've said. You've got radio. Oh, I love this song. Yeah, obviously you've got loads of presets, but to be honest, it's not the fastest in terms of response. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth. All these sorts of things. It's all fairly standard. It's all usable, you know. Yeah, as I say, you've got a USB point in the center console. You can plug in, use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Up front, as I said, you've got this digital instrument cluster. If I cycle through, you can get it to display audio, whatever you're listening to. You can control it all through here. Like I say, it's a bit slow when you click OK on things. It takes a while to cycle through to different menus. Like I said, I never use this. I suppose it's just going to display a little bit of the map. In all honesty, just leave it on info. And this is basically your trip computer. I always like to know how much remaining range I've got. So we do have front and rear parking sensors, and if I just select reverse, a reversing camera. Apologies, it is quite dirty. It's not normally that bad, but also you have to consider this car is what? 2016 and we're now 2023, so coming up for 8 years old, and it has got a little bit of sort of like marring and light scratching to it, so it's not going to be the clearest, but I'd rather have it than not have it, you know. So now if we just move on to a little drive, so in terms of the drivetrain, it's a 2-litre diesel producing, I think, 161 brake horsepower, and it's mated to a 6-speed, I don't know whether you'd call this semi-automatic, but automatic transmission essentially. The engine produces 295 foot-pounds of torque, and can accelerate from 0 to 60 in quite a lethargic 9.1 seconds. In terms of gear change, generally when you're sort of driving around, it slips through the gears nice and smoothly. It's only really if you're accelerating hard or perhaps going up a hill that you'll notice it sort of jolt through the gear changes. And as I mentioned, you can slide this over to the right, and then down here in the bottom left, I don't know if you saw it, it's gone from drive to manual mode, so we're in manual 3rd gear. You can change it down if you like. However, if I just come to a complete stop in a sec, you'll see, as long as the steering wheel's around the right way, it actually automatically changes down for you. This does frustrate me. I don't know who's using it. You get prompts to change up a gear, but if you change it up too early, if I try and do it now, it'll say shift denied, but it seems to be there seems to be a really narrow band between wanting to shift up and then the car prompting you to shift up. But it's occasional. It doesn't happen all the time. So I tend to just leave it in drive and let the car decide for itself the best gear for it to be in. So in terms of economy, the official MPG is 50. You're not going to get that. Typically, I'm driving up and down, what would you call it, Sussex down, so not a very economic route on my way to work. I sort of do, I think it's 12 or 14 miles each way. Yeah, I'm sort of getting 36, 38 mpg. On a motorway run, I can get more sort of like your mid 40s. which is much better. When we tow our caravan, and just for reference, our caravan weighs sort of around 1,200 kilos, I suspect, when we've got our camping bits and pieces in it. We sort of get high 20s to low 30s, obviously just sort of depends on how far we go, but typically we're sort of doing a 100-mile trip at least, so your average MPG sort of tends to increase a bit, which I actually think is fine. Obviously isn't much less than what we're getting solo on a sort of like uneconomical commute to and from work. So in terms of general visibility, I think it's absolutely fine. You've got quite a shallow rear window, so not a massive aperture to look through in your interior mirror, but it's absolutely fine. Obviously, reversing's aided with parking sensors and a reversing camera. I think the wing mirrors are fine for a car of this size. Typically with like an SUV or something, if you was to compare it to that, you would have larger wing mirrors, but I find these perfectly acceptable for driving around town with. Can generally see where I'm going. So in terms of comfort and suspension, I would say this is where this car really probably excels, particularly when you're on a motorway run. Wouldn't you agree, Bill? I think that's a resounding sort of thought between Bill and myself, is on a long journey this car is really comfortable. The seats are really supportive, the suspension's nice and soft, it soaks up lumps and bumps, and actually recently we got a flat tyre and I was using my sister's Mini and it was just unbearable. Oh, that's quite extreme, isn't it? Unbearable, but such a hard ride, not very comfortable. It made me glad to get back into this. So yeah, in terms of comfort, it's lovely. So in terms of good things about this car, I think there's ample pulling power for what we sort of need. Like I say, it's very comfortable. This car's really at home, just sort of pooting along in the motorway, 6th gear. You'll get relatively decent economy from it. So yeah, I think they're probably the car's pros. In terms of negatives, as I mentioned, I think the gearbox is quite dumb because there seems to be a really narrow band, particularly when you're in manual mode, between it prompting you to change up a gear, or between you trying to select to increase the gear or to select the next gear up, and the prompt for you to change up is so narrow that actually just leaves you frustrated, because you try to change up, it will deny it, and then it will tell you to change up. So that's a bit frustrating. Sometimes I think it holds on to gears fractionally longer than I think is necessary. And I think when you compare this to something like a Volkswagen with a DSG gearbox, I do have some experience of that because we used to have a Volkswagen Passat with a DSG gearbox that slips through the gears really smoothly, and was really, it felt quite intelligent. When you wanted to change up, it would just change up for you. So yeah, I think that has a far superior gearbox by comparison. There can sometimes be a bit of sort of a delay between pressing the accelerator and the car springing into action, particularly when you're sort of going on a I'm trying to pull out here would be a perfect, although saying that I'm not going to stop, roundabout, nipping out at a busy roundabout is a prime example. You'll spot an opportunity that you want to exploit, and you'll put your foot down on the accelerator and nothing really happens, and there's sort of like I suppose half a second gap between you pressing the accelerator and the car responding, but half a second is quite a long time in terms of movement on a roundabout, because a car already on the roundabout will have moved significantly in a half second gap, so it can leave you sort of feeling a bit vulnerable. So you tend not to exploit opportunities so much, which isn't so good. If you're already rolling, the car responds quite well. It just seems to be from standstill. I don't know. I don't understand how automatic gearboxes work. So in terms of towing, this particular car can tow a maximum of 1,600 kilos. I don't have any experience with any other vehicle, so I can't say whether it is actually any good at towing, but this is quite a large, heavy vehicle, and it seems to tow our lightweight caravan quite well. I think that would be the case for quite a lot of lightweight caravans. Perhaps if you've got a bigger, heavier caravan, you might feel differently. But yeah, in terms of what I need it for, it's perfect, and it really has sort of been the tool for the job. So another issue I have, and I think this is probably more of the fact that this is a front-wheel drive car for towing, and I don't think it's perhaps very well suited, is, as I say, it's front-wheel drive. Sometimes you can struggle to get the power down, particularly when you sort of want to pull away quickly. I know with a caravan on the back you've got lots of weight, which is probably lifting the nose up, but I don't think front-wheel drive cars are particularly well suited to towing in general. So I think moving forwards I will look for rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, only to sort of give me that reassurance that when I want to pull away I can get the power down and go. So in terms of the future of the car, we've always upgraded the car for either a newer car that's generally much better, has got better in-car tech. Obviously we've had this car for the last year, and I actually think that it served us quite well. Wouldn't you agree, Bill? Yeah. It's, like I say, it served the purpose. We wanted to be able to haul the caravan around. We don't really have a need for two cars, because we could have a car exclusively for towing, but that kind of seems a bit pointless to pay for a car that you're just going to use for 4 weeks of the year. So yeah, I feel like it served us quite well, but me and Bill are in discussions about changing the car anyway. We've been out and looked at a couple. Previously to this we had an electric car, and when we got rid of that in exchange for this, obviously it felt like a massive step back. I really enjoy driving electric cars. However, we couldn't afford an EV that could tow a caravan. But over the last year, EV prices have tumbled. But also considered maybe a plug-in hybrid, because that could perhaps be a compromise and sort of best of both worlds. So we're sort of in discussions, although I am leaning more towards EV, we've sort of been in discussions about maybe swapping the car for something a bit nicer, a bit more modern. Yeah, so it's a kind of watch this space, but yeah, that's on the agenda next. If you have been, thank you for watching. Please do give the video a like, as it helps the algorithm and helps the channel grow. So if you have been, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.